This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this StockBox interview.
Joining us today is James Campbell, the MD of Botswana Diamonds. Thank you very much for joining us, James. How are you doing?
I'm very, very good indeed, Mark, and thank you for having me. And how are you?
Yes, I'm very good, thank you, James. We do like catching up. It's been a little while. I think it was actually January we spoke last time. I think we were actually speaking on the kimberlite pipes, I think, the anomalies that were found there in Botswana. But, before we get an update really on the company, I just want to get an idea from your point of view, where things are really with the market and the diamond market, of course, particularly throughout the course of this year.
Mark, it's a very good question and something that all of our investors are interested in, because obviously the condition of the market determines the trajectory of companies working within the diamond sector. Now, this year has been a really tough year. It follows a tough year the year before. But many industry commentators, independent industry commentators, are now calling the bottom of the market. And that's a good thing. We've seen price drops of between 40 and 60%. Depending on the kind of goods that you're having. And we've been looking for signs that this is the bottom of the market and signs that we may actually start to kind of rise above the market. So so where are we? What are the positive signs and what are the negative signs? Maybe I just need to kind of touch on a couple of those. Well, to be expected in a poor market, you still have relatively poor demand, and you've got quite a large rough stock overhang because of poor demand. So that is to be expected. We've also got competition from lab-grown diamonds, which has been increasing actually over the past 2 to 3 years. But there's a silver lining behind that one as well, and that's part of the change I want to refer to. So what are we seeing in terms of why do I think we've actually seen the bottom? Well, so far, polished sales have actually met expectations ahead of Thanksgiving. And that's really important because between Thanksgiving and New Year in the United States, 25% of world diamond sales take place. So diamond industry commentators and analysts look very, very carefully as to how the sales take place in the United States. So we already saw polished sales volumes increasing, which means that polished sales inventories are beginning to drop, and those goods are now in the retailers, hoping that the American consumer will actually start to buy that. Also positively is that a decisive, I'm not going to make any comment as to whether it was good or not. I'm not a politician. A decisive election in the United States has buoyed equity markets. And this is generally a very positive lead indicator for consumer spending in the holiday season. Because if people have money in their pockets or a bit of extra money, notwithstanding the whole cost of living crisis, then they'll be more amenable to buying diamonds. And then adding to that, which makes me, support the idea around these industry analysts, is that De Beers have just launched a major category diamond marketing campaign across the whole world, particularly focusing on America. And we're delighted with that because it will now start to properly make a distinction between lab-grown diamonds, which are fine if you want a lab-grown diamond, and the real thing, a natural diamond. So we're delighted that De Beers is kind of exercising its leadership role in the industry and being at the forefront or vanguard of natural diamond marketing.
Okay. Well, thank you for that update, James. It's good to get an idea on that. It's good to hear, the sort of fact that it's been tough this year, but you're starting to see what you say, the bottom there, and looking at industry experts as well. So hopefully that does indeed mark the bottom and the sort of rise in the diamond market. Of course, that's where Botswana Diamonds is mostly sort of focused, isn't it, really? So let's just catch up on the activities from the company then. So in Botswana then, what's the situation here? I know you've got an environmental authorization permit to drill and a prospecting permit on 5 kimberlites. So you're looking to sort of start getting active, are you, on the ground?
Absolutely, Mark, that you mentioned in your introduction. The last time we embarrassingly spoke was in January of this year. And that why we spoke was actually to advise the market we discovered several very distinct gravity anomalies in the Central Kalahari Game Reserve. Now, people might say, oh, what is a geophysical anomaly? Well, gravity is probably one of the most important and definitive geophysical exploration technologies for the discovery of kimberlite pipes. We use it in around the Thorny River and Marsfontein areas in South Africa, and it doesn't rely on magnetic signatures, which is really important, particularly when you're looking at the kind of kimberlites we have around KX36 in Botswana and those around Marsfontein in South Africa. So following the discovery of these anomalies, we applied for environmental authorization, which is a key aspect, as you would imagine, in a highly sensitive area such as the Kalahari of Botswana. We have just been granted that, and the plan is to focus on the two largest anomalies, one being 12 hectares and one being 6 hectares. And why is this important to us? Well, also in the press release, we mentioned that these anomalies are contiguous with Botswana Diamond's 100% owned KX36 project, which we acquired from Petra, and also close by to Gem Diamond PLC's Gagu Diamond Mine. So we believe in the fullness of time that this area of Botswana could become the third diamond producing area, in addition to the magnificent Jwaneng area and the magnificent Arapa area, which are run by Debswana.
Okay, so in terms of exploration done this year, then I guess it's been fairly limited. But now you are looking to actually start. When would you be actually looking to get on the ground?
Well, Mark, now we've got the environmental permit. We have 2 years to do the drilling. That's what it's stated in the permit. But typically, what we would like to do, if possible, and there are many reasons why we can't do what's possible, we would like to drill in the dry season. Because it's very easy to get stuck in the Kalahari in the wet season. And for listeners who don't know the Kalahari is a desert, but a grassy desert. And it's got, the roads are tracks, they go anywhere. And it's very difficult to navigate your way around the desert unless you're very familiar with doing so. And you have to take everything with you. Power, water, your toilets, food, the works. So our preference generally is to do it in the drier season, which in Southern Africa tends to be in winter, anything from May through to around about September. But we'll see. Now we've got the permits. We can actually go ahead and do it, but it might be coloured a little bit by the results of the artificial intelligence survey, which we hope to have by the end of the year.
Okay, well, let's talk about that, because that was an RNS that came up not so long ago, didn't it, about applying AI to the Botswana database. So tell us a bit more about what this entails.
Well, Mark, this has been one of our major drivers throughout the year, because obviously money's been extremely tight because we're in survival mode. So we've spent a lot of emphasis on this artificial intelligence study. So what we've got is essentially we've got probably the second largest exploration database in Botswana. Okay. This includes our own database, which flows back from African diamonds through into Botswana diamonds. It includes Petra Diamond's old database, the Sakaka Diamond database, and then add on to that a very, very significant body of data which comes from the Geological Survey of Botswana. And much of this was done by Canadian geophysicists and geologists, and also British geologists and geophysicists, on the back of the government having a very firm strategy of providing open source data to encourage exploration. So that's fantastic news. So on the one hand, we've got all of this data, and on the other hand, we've described in very detailed form kimberlites as a geological model, but not just kimberlites. We've described PGM deposits, which are in the southern part of the country, gold deposits, which are in the eastern part of the country, copper deposits, which are in the western part of the country, and then iron ore in the northwestern part of the country. And you then use artificial intelligence to basically try and map one against the other. And it's been a very instructive process so far. We've got a fantastic, I would say world-class. I don't like using the word world-class. I like the term world-beating AI group out of the UK, okay. Which are made up of highly intelligent geologists and computer scientists. And because it's not just a black box, chuck in the data, here the model. Now you have to work your way through this, and if you're an explorationist such as myself, you can quickly get rid of some of the stuff and start focusing on the better targets soonest. So we've been doing this now for about 3 months, and we do hope to conclude the program by the end of the year. And then, yes, I hope to chat to you more on that before Christmas time.
Well, yeah, let's hope so. If that can come out, we can have a look at what that's showing you. I mean, you say that could possibly influence the exploration plans here. So, of course, you've got the diamond element, but I mean, would you possibly look to get into other commodities so you're not totally exposed to the diamond market if the results sort of came up and said, hey, this is worth a bit of a look at?
Mark, it's a very good question. That we often have those discussions at board level. Botswana Diamonds is a diamond company, as it says it is. However, if we find something significant outside of the diamond domain within our database, complemented by the government database, then the board will obviously relook at this. It makes sense because it's been generated from our data. So I think it's too early to say, Botswana Diamonds will diversify. No, let's just see what the data says, and we make a rational commercial decision when the time comes.
Okay. So that's the work that's going on from now until the end of the year, or just before Christmas, as you say, on that AI. Any other work going on? Of course, we can catch up on Thorny River, of course, in South Africa as well.
Yes, in South Africa, our investors will know that we had a proof of concept at Marsfontein throughout the last year. And that proof of concept was essentially designing the mining and processing environment for our Thorny River mining permits, which we applied for the year before last. So we've been working very hard with the authorities and the communities to try and expedite those mining permits. And we hope to have some fairly good news on that in the not too distant future.
Okay, so mining permits. Okay, and that will allow you to effectively, commence operations, mining.
It will, but obviously, if we go back to our introductory discussion, it's obviously contingent on the diamond price as such, and maybe the delay in the authorization of these mining permits has actually been a blessing in disguise, because obviously they're given for a certain period of time, and one would want to be active for that period of time rather than wait for things to improve and let the licenses lapse.
And that, if I remember correctly, but correct me if I'm wrong, that's like just a processing operation, effectively.
It is. Yeah. It is. It's basically these permits are given over 5 hectares for 2 years, and it's a fairly straightforward open cast operation with a small processing plant adjacent to it. Yes.
Okay. Good. And Zimbabwe then, James. Let's finish off with what's going on in Zimbabwe.
Well, our investors will know, because I've posted it on LinkedIn and Twitter, that I've been to Zimbabwe several times during the course of this year. And, we've been very clear that we believe Zimbabwe to be highly prospective. No new thinking in terms of geological models or technologies have been applied in Zimbabwe to diamond exploration. And there's a saying in the exploration game that every time there's a breakthrough in exploration technology, the exploration clock starts to tick again. And that's ticked 2 or 3 times in Zimbabwe. So we feel it's ripe for Zimbabwe. We've been in discussions with some excellent local partners, and we really hope that we can make progress on this within the next few months. I would really hope so. We've done a lot of groundwork. We've met some fantastic people, and there's some fantastic opportunities available, which we would just like to get stuck into.
Okay, good. So we will catch up before Christmas, James. Let's make sure we do that. But in terms of what we can expect between sort of now and the end of the year, is the big one the sort of AI study, or anything else that we can look out for?
Absolutely. I think just before I jump on to the kind of two or three things that we're looking out for, I think one of the 2 things I think which is going to be catalytic in terms of the improvement in the overall market, and thus the improvement in diamond stocks. Now, my chairman says a rising tide lifts all the ships, and I think that's actually quite right. I think the first thing is the conclusion of a marketing deal between De Beers and the government of Botswana. and listening to the chief executive of De Beers and listening to the newly elected president of Botswana, I see that just around the corner. And that's fantastic news, because it starts to give kind of stability to the industry. And that's really important in terms of the long term. The second one, which is a more difficult one, it's common knowledge and has been for 6 to 8 months that Anglo American wants to divest of De Beers. So a very important catalytic event will be a good buyer with deep pockets who can then take De Beers into the future. And I think that's really important. When I was at De Beers, many years ago, I was blessed to work in the corporate when De Beers was listed, was private, and was owned by Anglo American. And very clearly, from my perspective, an independent De Beers, I think, would be a wonderful thing by the industry, as long as it's backed by good money.
Okay.
So what do you expect, more importantly, about Botswana Diamonds, taking that as a context? We've been, as I mentioned, we've been working hard on the Thorny River aspect. So I'd hope to be able to report back to our shareholders on Thorny River in the not too distant future. And equally, maybe after that or before that, let's see, I'd like to report back to shareholders on the results of our artificial intelligence study.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much, James Campbell, the MD of Botswana Diamonds, for that update today.
Thank you very much indeed for having me, Mark, and I look forward to chatting to you maybe once or twice before the end of the year.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.